morning, everybody. Good morning. This is Attorney Clint in Paris. And like I say it every week, if you can hear the sound of my voice as opposed to not, it is a good morning. You are live on Intex News Radio, reality radio, where everybody can be a star. Like I said, I am Clinton Paris. I am the co-host of Straight Up the Middle. And Straight Up the Middle is a political show that talks about the current issues happening in politics, local and national. The beauty of America is that we are all much more similar than we appreciate. So what's happening in our community is likely what's happening in your community. And so to make sure we stay straight up the middle, I have my co-host with me, none other than the fantabulous Professor Tony Seabrook. Good morning, Professor. How are you doing?
Good morning. I love your intro, man. It really gives me hope on your side of the house that you guys actually believe that we are similar. But, I'm just not going to start that. I've been out last week anyway, so I'm glad to be back.
Absolutely. Well, anyway, glad to have you back. I was lucky enough to have some people come on the show and help us out. And I don't know if you caught much of the show last week. We had with us civil rights icon, Attorney Delano Stewart. And for those of you who are in your whatever community you're in and you have never heard of Mr. Stewart or don't know him, Mr. Stewart back during desegregation was one of the first Black lawyers in Hillsborough County. I think there were like 3 or 4 Black lawyers when he arrived here. And he started out, Professor, by suing all the sitting judges for some of the practices they had that were discriminatory as it related to Black lawyers practicing in court. I mean, just think about that. You're a new lawyer, you hit town, and you open up by suing all the judges. Now, fast forward, he practiced 50 plus years. He has this great Christmas Eve party. And guess who's there every year? Any idea, Professor?
I have no idea.
Almost every judge in Hillsborough County on Christmas Eve passes through to say, "How you doing, Mr. Stewart? We want to wish you a Merry Christmas." It's just fantabulous, fantastic guy. And he was on the show last week with us and just gave us some great insight on some of the things that he's seen and that he's expecting to see in the future. Just still a very hopeful person about America. And we were just happy to have him on, particularly with this being Black History Month. So that was last week. And we also had Ed Rain came in to assist a little bit. Man, Professor, he was pounding the Republic. He was so much so I felt I had to step in and stop him. But anyway, glad to have you back. I know there's so much on your mind, and so I want to be deferential to you. And let's talk about what's on your mind this week as relates to our politics.
Well, let me take up where you just left off about the guest, giving that history, and you kind of telling us his background. I found it ironic because one of the things, I go through I get a lot of right-leaning tweets, right? And I see that Amazon is looking to take down the Clarence Thomas autobiography. I just think that's ironic. Black History Month, as you say, he is a Supreme Court justice, and Amazon sees no big deal in taking his book down. But that's for a different.
Well, I'm not familiar with that. Enlighten us a little bit. What's the basis of that? What's going on?
I don't know. I don't know their justification for it, but it's been happening. I mean, it happens to conservatives a lot. It happens to there's a Dr. Soh, S-O-H. She's a scientist. She talks. Her book is The End of Gender. It's been taken down. Amazon put back up. Walmart takes it down. There's no real firm rule as to why they do it, other than people, sending them emails saying, it's prejudice, it's this and it's that. So, but if it's conservative, and both these two individuals are, obviously their work is going to be scrutinized a little more.
I find that very interesting. I'll give you my Clarence Thomas history. Mm-hmm. I'm very familiar with his book, read his book. I'm also from Georgia. He's from Savannah, down by the coast. And I hosted him at an event at the Stetson College of Law, probably maybe 10 years ago, maybe more than that now, 10, 12 years ago, we had a series in which we were bringing the Supreme Court justices to campus to speak. And I just so happen to have been recently elected as the Stetson Alumni Association president when they decided to bring in Clarence Thomas. And it was quite interesting. We had a very, very interesting exchange with him. We were able to arrange a meeting with him and significant number of Black lawyers to talk, which he was not. He does not like things being defined by race. He doesn't like it. And he didn't like the idea of there being this kind of a meeting with Black lawyers. He wanted to meet with lawyers. You know, he had a real kind of penchant about that. He's funnier than people think he is. He's much funnier, much more engaging. And I found it quite, you know, it was just different, you know, he personalized it. But his book, you know, I read the book and I understand the book's about, just trying to explain myself.
Right.
Not, you know, I don't understand why they would ban the book. That's not a good idea. You know, we have to look at things from so many different ways, Professor. You can't see a circle from one direction. You've got to look at it from the top, the back, the side. You know, you want to hear other people say what they see in the circle. They may see something very different. And I think anytime that we're limiting perspectives of life and what's happening in this world based on only those that agree with us, you're going to make some really bad mistakes if that's the way that you approach it.
Well, that's been going on obviously for a while, and the backdrop to this is a lot what they did with Donald Trump when they deplatformed.
That's different. That's different. That's different.
Well,
that's different.
One can make a different argument about it, but it still falls to the same thing. If it pushes against orthodoxy and what's been predetermined as right, then that was the case. So I mean, you can make a different argument, but that's the backdrop to all of it.
Now, I agree. If you make a different argument, but if you just flat out are telling fibs and talking about Martians and Bigfoot, you know, we're going to shut that down.
And you know, that's a good example because they still talk about Martians and Bigfoot. And no one takes those books off. I always say there's a Bigfoot around, but no one takes those books off. But anyway, what was the first topic? Oh, the stimulus.
The stimulus. The status of the stimulus.
Right. Passes the House. Where's my printout? I had a nice little printout. Told me where the money was going. Yeah, you know,
everywhere. What do you mean?
I can't remember like you know, you commit these things and you can put them in context. But let me just read them off for those people who may be listening. And like me, you just need to know what you need to know at that time. So Biden's relief plan includes $1,400 stimulus payments, enhanced unemployment aid, assistance for small businesses, money for childcare, aid for states and schools, increased support for vaccines, and a minimum wage increase to $15. All sounds good, doesn't it? Sounds really good. The problem with that is, what happens after $1,400 goes away? Are we paying them off again, or we're going to push another one out? But I guess the bigger thing is, and I was trying to find the article, and I'm so suspicious of, I don't know where this article is located, but there's supposed to be $1 trillion still left out of the last stimulus bill that hasn't been allocated, which is the issue with government in itself. It sounds good. And so obviously Trump administration is certainly in the same thing. So you push this out, but then we found out after the fact, well, there's still money that hadn't been allocated. Then we found out that there's money that's been misappropriated. And then we find out it's all this stuff. And now there's a $1.9 trillion bill. We're going to put another $1,400 out there. And is it really working? Just what's the point? What's the point behind it? Like, what's the end goal? And we hope that's to get the economy back and get Americans back to work. But then when you hear people who don't want to open schools, so it's like, so what's $1,400 going to do if you don't open up the economy?
You know, I'm not going to not eat breakfast because I don't know where dinner's coming from. I'm going to eat my breakfast and I'm going to figure out dinner when I get to dinner. So not knowing what's next doesn't stop me from in the now trying to address what I need to address now. And I think we're close with what's happening with the infection rates, the hospitalizations, the death rates, getting America back up and operational. And we've got to just bridge people over to that point that more momentum kicks off. That's one. I think there's, you know, they've got to, that's part of it. That's one of what we do now versus later. Maybe we come back later and look at it again. But this has been the case from the first bill to the second bill to the third. It's always been the case. But you know, here's really what happened, and Professor, I blame Republicans. Giving up of its fiscal responsible ideal in exchange for accepting Donald Trump. Now you almost have nobody saying, whoa, slow down the spending. They agreed to let the spending go out the window, just spend. We'll figure it out later. And now you've got people in tough situations, be they behind on their rent or out of a job or needing money for food or other things that you need, medicine. It's hard to come in now and tell people we can't give you more money when guess what we've been doing? The spigot's been wide open for 4 years handing out money because Republicans decided we're no longer going to be fiscally responsible and concerned. They dropped that idea. And Donald Trump did that to a lot of, I think, Republican ideals. To accept him, you had to give up Republican ideas. That's the one point. I disagree with this notion that people don't want to open schools. I disagree with that. I think people don't want to die to open schools. And I'm not going to be the one to tell anyone to go back to a job that there haven't been the proper safety things put in place to keep you safe. Now, Florida is a great example of kind of how you might want to do it.
What? Say that again.
I mean, Florida is a great example.
Or the Republican governor? I'm sorry, go ahead, make your point.
A Democratic dominated state in population. Let the Republican governor, but I thought he did a good thing in saying, look, I'm going to push as hard as I can to do as much as I can to get kids back in school. And it's kind of, it's working to a certain extent, you know? So I think that can be an example of people. This thing scares people so much. You know, there are a lot of people, Professor, they won't leave their homes. And there are other people, they're doing about 70% of what they used to do, kind of in a different way. They go out to restaurants and they sit outside on a table for two. Or they go to a movie and they go, matinee and they sit away from other people. And there are other people who've said, I'm going to stay at my house locked up. That's my choice. I'm going to be locked up here until we get this thing completely under control. So I disagree with this idea that not wanting to open schools. I don't think that's it. I think people don't want to die to open schools.
No matter how you frame
that's going to be figured out. So as it relates to the stimulus, I think this stimulus is really no different than the other stimuluses that have come through. The fact that there's still money left, that reflects, I think, some of the stuff that they thought would work and could be done, they're finding out in practice, it's a lot more difficult to actually do that. You know, because you put money in a bill for SBA loans, it doesn't mean people are going to come and apply for them. It doesn't mean they don't need the money or they can't qualify. So there are a lot of other hiccups, I think, that impact that as well.
Well, and that makes sense. And just to a point of clarity, so if Donald Trump for the last 4 years did all this spending and it's all Republicans' fault, so I guess I'm to deduce from that, Democrats said, stop me from spending all this money. Why are you keep giving me all this money? I like spending money. You keep giving me. Is that how it goes? If we were responsible for spending, then Democrats bore no responsibility, or did they? What happened with that?
Watch. We are our brother's keeper, Professor. And on this show, when I go too far left, it is your job to pull me back. Okay. And if you go left with me, we're both over in the ditch somewhere. That's what Republicans did with Trump.
I like that.
You know, so when Trump starts spending, and everybody, yeah, we're spending, and there's no balance. That balance is not kind of, I think they're trying to get back there, but I think some of them are struggling with doing that with some kind of dignity because they understand America's hurting so bad. The one thing I thought was interesting, and we may come back to this later, was the effort to remove the $15 federal minimum wage. I thought that was quite interesting for the Republicans, considering they're now the party of the working people.
Right, and I'm not up to date on them wanting to remove it. I know there's a lot of gripe when you talk about pushing that out into that's federal. But when you're talking about making small businesses pay someone $15, then that's the issue.
No, but that doesn't do that. The federal minimum wage is about federal contractors, things of that nature, where you're getting your money sources coming from the federal government. It wouldn't affect me. And if you think about it, Florida did raise its minimum wage.
Mm-hmm. Not the $15 though, right?
No, but we'll get there.
Yeah, right. It's incremental. I think that was the bill.
Right.
Getting back to the point, and don't want to belabor this about the COVID. I think I saw a stat that says it was roughly 20% of the population has been vaxxed.
Okay.
So that in itself should provide calm some of those fears of what's going on, because we started with the elderly in a lot of cases, or in most cases, but we know there are a lot of exceptions to the rule. So if 20% of the public has been vaxxed, and everyone likes to throw around, we follow the science. The science still has not been debunked that children are not the super spreaders. So with that, it still goes back to a lot of teachers not wanting to go back to schools. They want to get paid, but they don't want to go back into the classroom. And so it's just like this unending, someone needs to make a decision, open up the schools. And here's my thing. There are a lot of people who are willing to go sub. If a teacher does not want to go back to the classroom, fine, reduce that pay and put a sub in there and give that teacher pretty much an ultimatum. Not come in or less, but give them some time to make up their mind. We can't be in this indefinite stage forever. There are going to be people that milk this for no good reason, and children suffer. Well, I won't say no good reason, for selfish reasons. I don't want to get sick. I don't want to get sick. Well, get vaxxed and go back to school.
I think what we have to do is got to get people more confidence. My kids are back in school, and the teacher's kind of like in a plexiglass bubble in the classroom, and she does not come out. She yells over the top of the kids. She's plexiglassed off. They're out there. She's behind the plexiglass, and she just yells at them over the top of the plexiglass.
That's so ironic. It's almost like having 7-Elevens in classrooms now. Back in the hood, all 7-Elevens have that plexiglass. So you can't rob them anymore, right? But to be serious, I'm in the classroom every week. No plexiglass. And I'm in where the science does not protect us. I'm in with college students. So they're not part of the science, that they are not super spreaders. Right. And we know in different campuses, there has been an outbreak. So some people, for whatever reason, I think we go back to this term I came across a couple of days ago, the Hegelian dialectic, and you probably are familiar with that. I think it had some play into formal arguments or a way of framing thought.
Right.
It's as long as you have people out there fanning the flames of, I got sick, and people still saying, hey, I've been struggling with this for 2 weeks and a month and that kind of stuff. And I don't want to minimize anyone's situation, but we probably won't ever reach that place where everybody's good, because there's a force out there that does not want everybody to be good.
But let me ask you this about that force. Why would the force not want people to be good in your mind?
Because it keeps the status going. And back to this again, the reason why it jumped out at me, because a situation that we're going to get to, Biden's cabinet picks, it seems to me like the Democrats in Washington like to create problems and then double back to try, and then want to solve the problems. And so I actually looked up, because I couldn't find the term. What is that? I just knew there was a word for it. And then the Hegelian dialectic jumped out. And basically that's where it's a frame of thinking that has two opposing sides. And as long as there's that dueling sides, and you kind of look at that as a triangle, the elite, it feeds into the system. As long as you have two opposing sides, they're fighting ideology, that kind of stuff, the system stays in place. People still go at things for really, I don't know. And I know there's merit.
So you mentioned it several times. So one of the premises of the Hegelian dialect is there's a presumed outcome.
A predetermined outcome.
Predetermined outcome. And then the structure of the arguments are set up to go to end at that same result.
Exactly.
But, you know, I don't know. I mean, I concede to the uncertainty and fears that people have are being valid. I concede to anything that anybody can do to manipulate the system for their benefit, they will do it. And now we have a population that has been so manipulated, not just by the Democrats, but by the Democrats, Republicans, insurance companies, weather people, traffic analysts. Everybody manipulates everything. Big tech, little tech, no tech. What do those people call that? Not hoarders, but doomsdayers.
Doomsday, yeah, doomsday preppers.
Everybody does this, and so you kind of got a stagnation because you got people now who are like they don't know what to believe or what to do.
Yeah,
they really don't, and so they're kind of neutralized, and so they're trying to grab onto something, and in the meantime, people are manipulating using that. So.
Right.
But what are your thoughts about the stimulus passing? You think it's going to end up getting passed?
Yeah, I think it's going to pass. I mean, to not pass it would only hold things up. And just there's no reason to not pass it because people are waiting on that money. You've dangled $1,400 out there.
But doesn't that hurt? Well, now the come out of what's going to happen is this. Here's how the Democrats are going to frame this. We're so sorry, America. The Republicans just wouldn't support our effort to help you. And nobody voted for this. Can you believe that? You know, and nobody cares about the pork because the pork's in everything. There's a bridge to nowhere in every bill. So, you know, you go to Kentucky. Kentucky has some of the most government operations in the country. Guess why? Mitch McConnell put them there. There's pork in every. So I don't think the rank and file America is going to care about it. They're going to make those Democrats. They hooked us up. And I want to know, Professor, and come next election, when that's thrown around the Republicans' neck, what's going to be the argument you have in support of not helping pass this bill?
Well, that's what I said. I mean, it's already passed the House, and they didn't really.
But the Republicans didn't support it.
Right. Well, if the bill passes, you just said it. You give the American people $1,400. They're not going to care about who didn't support. I got the money. It passed.
Oh yeah, they will. They're going to care about who didn't vote for this, who held it up, and you know, you definitely can't go campaign. Republicans can't campaign on we didn't vote for the stimulus bill. You can't campaign on that.
Well, that may be true, but that leads into the CPAC. It's going to be a different conversation.
You want to just jump over it? I mean, you might want to build up. Don't.
Okay, but let's build up. Let's build up. We got about how many minutes?
Hold on for a minute. Hold it right there for a minute. For everybody who's tuned in this morning, you're listening to In Touch News Radio, reality radio. Everybody can be a star. My name is Clint in Paris. I got with me my co-host, Tony Seabrook, and we're on Straight Up the Middle. Now, the reason I want to pause here is to say, look, this is a call-in show. I love listening to myself talk, but you all may want to hear your own self-talk. So we do something a little bit different on our show. You can comment on our show by texting 25324 and then put in the words SUTM. That will link you to our show, and you can comment, ask a question, and participate. Okay, with that being said, Professor, all right, let's go ahead and build up a little bit more before we go to our break. Again, you've been out. What else is on your mind this morning you want to talk about?
President Biden's cabinet picks.
Okay.
In particular.
All right.
I'm a values voter, so the one that got me the most is Dr. Rachel Levine, who's up for confirmation for, I think, Undersecretary of Health. Okay.
I think she's out of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, out of Pennsylvania, exactly.
Okay.
And I think they being a lot of the right-leaning media has been hanging her COVID response as being second to Cuomo's as far as how bad it was. But as it pertains to what CPAC is talking about and what may happen in 2022. This
Hold on for a minute. Isn't she the transgender person?
exactly, and
Can
it's
you all
not that
can she be criticized now? I mean, I don't know if you guys can criticize
right,
her. She's
right.
transgender.
And I know you're setting it up. We have, let's see, about 3 minutes till break. And see, I know you now. He's setting it up. So yeah, Rand Paul Rand Paul was giving her the business in the way that Rand Paul gives everyone the business. It wasn't a personal attack, but that's what the Democrats like to make it sound. So you have a person in a protected group. She's transgender. So now you can't say anything. He didn't even ask her about why she did it. That wasn't a part of the record. Didn't need to be a part of the record. The question at hand and the issue at hand is she is a proponent of letting minors, 8-year-old, 10-year-olds decide to take hormone blocking therapy medicines. And they're all off label. So we're all adults. Off label means you can use this. It's not prescribed for your condition, but there's been some evidence that shows this medicine can help you in whatever situation it is. The issue is, in many cases, and these are medical documents and studies that Rand Paul has, and he's also quoting who, obviously, the World Health Organization. The reason this is problematic is the same reason why I left the Democrat Party back in the early 2000s. The handwriting's on the wall. You need to keep your traditional views to yourself, values to yourself, especially as they pertain to the nuclear family, especially as it pertains to natural marriage. You can't even start to advance those, although it's been the bedrock of our society. Now you're trying to tell me it's okay for an 8-year-old to say, I want to be a girl or boy. You pump them up with these hormones so they can grow a beard, but it has secondary effects that are not reversible. Why is that okay? And that's not even
listen, I am shocked. I'm shocked, Professor. You would walk into that. You would walk. I mean, okay,
I'm in it.
Here we go. As a values person,
values vote.
One of the top values I think America continually struggles with is the one of individual liberty.
Right.
That's where I think this thing starts. The first question really is not about the medical stuff and all that. The first question is, who should be deciding this? The child's family and parents, or the government? And as a values person, I would think you would fall first to say, listen, it's your family, this is this individual, your rights to make the choices about your health care are up to you and need not fit into what I would do something different. But you know what? I'm going to respect and tolerate your right to do what you choose to do under your liberty and within your family. That's the first thing that I say to right. Whether or not the medical treatment is good or bad or does or doesn't, that's another whole place to go. I don't think you can't get beyond that. I don't want the government in people's health decisions.
Well, that's not where the government is. And this is not that, because a 10-year-old can't consent to having sex with a grown man, but you're telling me a 10-year-old can consent to changing his sex. It is beyond me to try to frame it any other way.
We have established norms and guidelines.
The norms of life is minors. We protect minors.
For how families and children and their health and those decisions are made. Why are we plugging the government into this one and say, okay, hold time out, everybody. The government knows best for this one. That to me seems inconsistent.
So that's why this one should not be. She should not be confirmed for the same reason that she is bringing this to the government and she promotes it. And in that position it has a very broad reach over what happens in HHS. It filters down.
I don't doubt that. You're right about that. Everything starts at the top. But I didn't hear this kind of concern about what falls from the top when Ben Carson brought his medical knowledge to housing and urban development. You know, it was very insightful, and I thought he'd be very knowledgeable. But listen, we're getting the signal from the studio that we need to take a break. I'm sorry, Professor. We only got the two of your topics. Again, next half of that show, we're going to be dedicated to whatever you want to talk about. We're going to take a quick break. This is In Touch News Radio, reality radio, where everybody can be a star. We'll be right back after this quick break.
The storks are bringing me a baby brother. We can do this together.
All right, let's go.
Storks know how to keep kids safe. Do you?
What?
Oh my gosh, you don't know.
I know.
You don't. Oh man, you laugh when you're uncomfortable.
No.
Making sure your child is in the right car seat is one of the steps to safer travel.
I will rock this.
You will rock this.
To know for sure that your child is in the right car seat for their age and size, visit safercar.gov/the right seat.
Cool. Very cool.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
It's important to plan ahead for emergencies, like the storm. When it kicked in, we had a plan.
Separated.
We were able to get in touch with each other in no time.
Idea how to find each other.
The whole experience was
the
fine.
most frightening 10 hours of my life.
If there's one piece of advice I'd offer other moms out there, it's to stay calm and keep to the plan.
Message.
Some parents plan ahead, some don't. Make sure you know where to find your family in an emergency. Start your plan at ready.gov. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Thinking politics? Tampa Bay Politics is on every Wednesday at 11 a.m. with Angela Birdsong. Tune in right here on In Touch Radio.
All right, we're back live with In Touch News Radio, reality radio where everybody can be a star. My name is Clint Paris. I'm here with my co-host on Straight Up the Middle with Professor Tony Seabrook, and of course, holding it down, DJ Anna, the queen of all things digital. We just appreciate you so much for all the work that you do in the studio. So we were right before we took that break, we were talking about how do we keep the government out of people's homes. They're already in everybody's bedroom with choice and what women can do with their bodies. And now we have this issue in a broad spectrum being pushed back because of some issues with this lady. I would suspect this, Professor. Let me say this. And I already hear the emails coming. I don't get transgender. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I presume that there's just got to be so much happening within a person's mind and body and psyche in that whole world. And I would suspect if you sat one of those people down, you're going to find some things that may seem a little bit not the things that you would come up with. That don't make them bad or make the person a bad person. And so what I'm saying is, I don't know if that's enough for me. That if that's all y'all got for a pick, is that it? Is that the only is that really it?
What was that?
As far as her concerns about Joe Biden's pick, because if that's all you got,
well, here's the thing.
It's gonna be a breeze.
Here's the thing. That's big enough, because we're not talking about a stimulus check. We're not talking about fracking, or we're talking about our children. We have to deal with that.
Whoa.
So let me go back. Wait a minute.
Let me say this, because again, you can't get away with that. You're not talking about our kids. That's somebody else's kid who's choosing to do that. And we're going to tell them they can't?
No. If a parent makes that decision, that's on the parent. So let me back up and frame this like you just did. I have no problem at this point in 2021. I don't have any transgender, to my knowledge, in my family, but I have homosexuals, lesbians in my family. So it's not about, that's an adult choice. I don't even think about it because it doesn't concern me. And I don't even have conversation about it. I know plenty. We don't talk about it. I don't talk about what I do with my girl. I don't want to hear about what we're good with that. That's never been a problem for most people. Most Americans are not okay with it, but it's common now. The issue that I have is when you try to pack this in on the back end and make it seem like, well, this is an individual choice. We're talking about a minor. And here's the thing. This person, Rachel Levine, is also a proponent of parents they don't have to be consented. That's the issue. There are too many back doors in this, and this is about children. You may not want us, I don't care what you do with your child, I'm not saying, but about children, afford the protection for parents. Let parents be the only ones that can make that decision. They'll be ostracized in a lot of their circles anyway. They do that with a minor. We're talking 8, 10 years. I mean, that was the conversation. It wasn't about someone who's 16,
listen, Professor, really. In my head, I have not seen the policy. It's a non-issue. And if this is where y'all gonna hang your hat on Biden's picks, listen.
Here, I got a note in here. Now, you know, people listen. They said that President Biden said that gender rights were the new civil rights. It's clear where he's focusing his attention. It's sad that those issues are above the real issues of this country, which in my opinion is systematic white supremacy or inferiority. It's a great analogy and a great way to approach it, because it's one thing to say it's just the one thing, but let's remember that's also one of the reasons Trump had the evangelical vote. When they started coming up that, oh, it's 5 genders, or I am binary, you know what, I am fluid. That's the kind of stuff that drove the evangelical. Okay, we're gonna get this guy. This guy may be crazy, but he's gonna let us practice our faith and hold on to our values. And the way Biden is going now, you're going to give it right back to him. This normally
I set the traps. I'm not going to fall for the banana in the tailpipe with you sucking me into that discussion about Donald Trump. Let's talk other Biden picks you have concerns about, or in general, how you think the confirmations are going. Merrick Garland looked great.
Merrick Garland sounded weak. The clip that I saw, I don't know if he was nervous, he was cold, sounded like he was shivering. It's like, what's up with this guy? To be a top pick for the Supreme Court, he was and I don't know. And I'm like, what?
He sounded like, I was so moved, the compassion. I'm looking forward to him being the Attorney General. Okay. Other picks though you had concerns about.
As a matter of fact, it is the actual Secretary of Health, Becerra.
Okay.
Here's another one. Where am I going with this? His persecution of the little sister of the poor. It shows you again one reason why coming back to the Democrat Party could never be a thought, but it was the reason why I left. It's their position on faith. It's okay. They're kind of like that attributed quote that they say Gandhi said, oh, I don't have a problem with your Christ, it's your Christians. But with the Democrat Party, they don't have a problem with, the same thing. They don't have a problem with Christ. Oh, he's up there. It's your Christians that always want us to kind of think about things that they say are against their religion. It blows me away that now that you guys have the ball, this is the kind of stuff you do. It's like, okay, at least warm us up to it, but this is what you do. You put these type of nominations. So that's the secretary and the undersecretary both having these counter positions to natural science. But I don't say that about Becerra. He didn't have that. I don't know what his position is on the whole transgender and hormone taking. I won't put that on him. But I know his position on making those the little sisters of none support something that was against their faith. Little sisters of the poor. So those are the two that I had an issue with. I think the confirmation is going to go well. I'm hearing a lot of talk about, they're giving the Native American, she's going to be the first. He has such a diverse cabinet, nothing wrong with that.
He's checking off a lot of boxes.
Well, that's what. But here's the other thing. He's paying people off for those 81 million votes. We know he didn't get them. So look, I appreciate that the 10 million votes you brought me. Here is your pick. I appreciate this. Here is your pick. I mean, so I think they're going to go over well. I just think that they're overplaying the whole people of color and why they're getting pushed back, because they seem to.
I think we're going to see under Donald Trump a significant advancements in I would say Biden in human rights, because we have an older white man in the White House and it's harder to push back against him. So he has a lot more bandwidth than Obama did, and even Clinton, who came out of Arkansas. People will accept the liberal views that Biden puts on the table because of who he is. Now, we got to get the CPAC. I mean, I've never been this excited about CPAC in my whole life. I'm just beside myself. I mean, I was watching Don Jr. and Kimberly Guilfoyle yesterday. I mean, it can't be better for the Democrats than the two of them.
Well, so here's how it plays in some things that we've already talked about. You said that so the Republicans not supporting that's going to come back, that the Democrats want to hang that around their necks. That may or may not work. I heard DeSantis' speech now. We've heard it before. I think there's no coincidence why he pushed such a broad and heavy-hitting election integrity bill, no mass mail-in vote, all the things that were issued. Because guess where Donald Trump lives? So he's in Florida. So this whole thing has been warming up to a backdrop. Is it going to be a DeSantis-Trump ticket in 2024, which would scare the heebie-jeebies out of the Democrats? Because what they're realizing, and I said this before, and I'm going to remember the date of this airing, Donald Trump is going to be the first president that shows he's not only the one that had the loyalist support from his base, he's going to be the one that can be a kingmaker differently than any other president. They lost their chance with that second impeachment. It wasn't going to go anywhere, but they just kept wanting to paint that bad picture, just marring everything about Donald Trump that they can to make him just unappealing to anyone else. Now, I'm not saying I want Donald Trump to run in 2024. It'd be an uphill battle, but I don't know that I'd be against DeSantis running in 2024. Again, given what Joe Biden is doing right now, and you know where I am. I told you, I never consider myself the evangelical right, but I'm a values voter, and those things are in the same order. I'm always going to say them: God, family, and government. And the Democrat Party at its top does not care. And as a matter of fact, to me, it's counter, it's anti-faith.
Yeah,
and Joe Biden being a faithful Catholic.
That's a heavy statement. I think that, we may differ about. So, DeSantis is interesting. The first thing I think is, I don't know if you run Trump again. I'd be really worried about a Trump if I was a Republican. Let me back up. So we were on CPAC, but as supposed to Trump in 2024, he's come in second in 2 elections on the popular vote. Because I don't think, let's say Hillary beat him with the popular vote, and then let's say Biden beat him, and even if we were to say half of the beatdown he took from Biden was related to fraud, but he still came in second twice. There's a major demographic shift. Texas, Carolinas, Georgia, Florida, and even Louisiana. A lot of those Northeastern Democrats are sliding south. In fact, it's one of the reasons you get Republicans elected in New York now, because the Democrats, a lot of those folks are leaving. I just don't see how 4 years from now, with that trend going, Donald Trump's in a stronger, because I'm assuming he's in a stronger position than he was when he was in the White House. He was in the White House. I just got a feeling there are going to be so many people going, you know what? I was just so uncomfortable with him in the White House. I liked his policies, but I was on edge every morning worried about what he was going to tweet, who he was going to leak information to. And if my life is not down, if people's lives, their day-to-day living, Professor, people's lives right now, I think are at a low point. They can only get better. And while it may not be fair to say, well, that's because of Joe Biden's policies, it will be while Joe Biden's in office. It's kind of like it wasn't Donald Trump's fault the virus hit. Granted, some of the stuff he did after it hit just made it worse, but it wasn't his fault that it hit, but people felt that way when he was in office. I think that's going to be, a big hill to climb. But let's talk about CPAC and what's happening there. And the thing that I can't really appreciate is happening in CPAC is, Professor, why in the hell are y'all going backwards? Why won't y'all go to the future? Everybody thinks it's just come in and kiss Donald Trump's reign. They come in and everybody's going overboard to kiss Donald Trump's reign.
You know why? there's a poll. I think it was in the New York Times. I think the New York Times had this poll in it. When they polled Democrats, I don't know who it was, pretty fairly decent sample size. Guess what their number one concern was?
Donald Trump.
Trump supporters.
Yes.
Why are you so concerned about the guy that you impeached twice that you say?
I'm gonna tell you
is
why.
an
You know why? Because
Why?
they stormed the Capitol. We weren't concerned. They're trying to turn the country over. So we're
Okay.
concerned. We're concerned. now.
Democrats are concerned about that.
Yes.
That's what Democrats. Okay, here's the thing. If you beat a guy that bad, he's that unpopular, your guy got 82 million votes, there's no reason to be concerned.
That's just a
Absolutely
political
none.
piece. Yeah, but that's a political piece. We got the political piece. We're worried about the day-to-day functionality in this.
Or you're worried
country.
about the reality.
Yeah. I mean,
Because on
everybody got-
paper,
look, your people showed up with trucks loaded with guns and parked them all over the city.
until they
we're
prove
worried
that in
about it.
court, that's just conjecture.
All right, okay,
counsel,
so
until you
help
prove
me
that in
out.
court.
Explain this to me then, Professor. Explain this to me and to our audience listening everywhere. Why is everybody in the Republican Party kissing Donald Trump's ring?
I wouldn't phrase it like that, so let me start out that way, but I'll tell you why CPAC is geared the way it is. It is a new day. You are so right. The establishment Republicans have been shown for what they were. They're rhinos. That term has been around before Donald Trump came into office. But when things got crazy, and there were some obvious things that his supporters and those young Republicans, I'm talking about the Matt Gaetz of the world, and here, Byron Donalds, he's African-American congressman out of Naples. There were some things in place, some young Republicans that have traction. They see the value in the America First branding. They see the typical Joe Biden. This only helps us out. While you think that Joe Biden being liberal policy, people going to think they got better. Joe Biden is so ineffective. Joe Biden is not stopping anything.
All right, so we're talking about Donald Trump. We're talking about Trump now.
I'm going back. Okay. The one
Okay.
thing you can say about Trump did what he wanted to do, even much to his undoing. He did it because he wanted to do it. You can say why he did it. He did it. Joe Biden doesn't have the same thing. Joe Biden does what people tells him to do.
Listen, okay. I'm confused because I'm trying to figure out at CPAC, when people are trying to figure out the future, they're going backwards to a loser.
But that you're assuming that they want to bring Donald Trump back in 2024. I'm already on record saying I don't want to see that happen. But what I'm saying, you can't deny the reality. And the reason why it's the number one concern for Democrats, because the reality is Donald Trump is still, he looms large. And he still has plenty of voters, and he still has enough reach to make a difference. You do something before 2022, you have to get past this next midterm election to
So
see
watch
whether
me
or not
though.
Donald Trump is a
So
candidate.
how would someone like a Nikki Haley or someone who might want to run, DeSantis, who might want to run and be the future of the party, how does that person mount any momentum if every 10 minutes people are saying, well, in 2024, Donald Trump could be our nominee. 2024, I support Donald. How does any of those people get any oxygen in the room if that's the case?
But here's the thing, kind of like what you said the Republicans were doing with AOCs, like, no one's even talking about her. You guys talk about Donald Trump because you guys are still so worried. Again, a guy you guys beat down, impeached twice.
Whoa. We're not talking about Donald Trump. Every person that walked in that stage said, hey, everybody, isn't Donald Trump great? Yay!
Well, where do you think the branding came from? America First GOP? Where do you think the branding
I got
comes
that, but
from?
I'm just saying, so don't say we're talking, listen, I think Joe Biden is doing an excellent job.
Of course
He's
you
just
do.
governing. He's not talking. He's making this, he's governing.
He can't remember. He doesn't do a lot of talking because he can't remember what he's saying.
Listen, ignorant.
Listen,
I was watching him the other day. I said, man, he talks kind of old. Oh, he is old. But guess what? Donald Trump's almost as old.
He is. And they say the same stuff, jive turkey. I'm surprised none of them call each other jive turkey by now. I just thought that was just be the ugliest fight. But still, being serious about it. But the CPAC, I watched Ted Cruz. He's typical Ted. He tried to rally him up. I thought he put a little too much on it. DeSantis, those are the type of, I don't think the things people are saying. I think that's what Ted Cruz is. I certainly believe that's what DeSantis is. I don't think DeSantis is really strong enough to win. I really don't think so. In my heart of hearts, I don't think he's strong enough to win the presidency. Now, if he were to combine with a Nikki Haley and then have Donald Trump in the background pumping it up, as long as Donald Trump can say, I'm the one who did it, who got y'all in the house, I think he'll be okay with that. I don't think he really needs to be on the ticket, but you can't do it without him. You cannot do it this go round without Donald Trump. He just has too much of a pull on the Republican Party.
Yeah, I mean, but if you were to say, first of all, right now his voice is the lowest and weakest it's ever been.
Because he's not on y'all deplatform.
Right. So the Republicans could have filled that void with other information, Republican ideals. They could have filled it up with other stuff. Besides, everybody always and the Democrats have done a great job of this, and I think the media is doing it also. They goat you all into talking about Donald Trump. I've done it on this show. Instead of talking about new ideas for governing, we've talked about Donald Trump. And they do that on purpose. And guess what? At CPAC, you all come in and say, Donald Trump, yay! Donald Trump, yay! Donald Trump, yay! Thank you.
Because they realized they didn't do it without Donald Trump. You guys just want to give him his due. They know everything that happens. CPAC, you're in Florida. You go in and start talking about DeSantis, just about DeSantis, Nikki Haley. What room is that going to fill up? How many yays you going to? I mean, you have to play on it. And I believe it's going to be.
I disagree, though. Think about this. There was no more boring a presidential candidate than George Bush II.
I would agree.
And he won. You got great people. You got great people. Ted Cruz, if he hadn't done what he did and let the man talk about his wife like he did and did not do anything about it, I mean, he didn't do anything about it. The man said, hey, talked about your wife. If you talk about Heidi, well, that's just crossing the line. And then he kept licking his shoes. I'm like, you can't make this stuff, and you can't make it up. All I'm saying is I'm trying to figure out what's the future. If the future is, if let's say you don't want Donald Trump, who do you want to emerge as the leader of the party? And how do they do it with Trump walking behind everybody like he did Hillary?
But see, Trump, that doesn't bother. It bothers you guys. Trump can be sitting in the front row. It doesn't bother me because I don't think they can do it without Trump. Whoever it is, they can't do it without Trump this go around. Because what you guys did was make him bigger. I always say, if you guys just left him alone, he probably would have self-destructed. But you guys kept at him investigation after investigation after he's out of the office, impeaching. The Democrats and the media that's who showed white supremacy. We don't care who you are. We will destroy you. Your most affluent blacks could not do what the media and the Democrat did to President Trump. And the only reason this guy's able, because he's also a rich old white guy. So we just witnessed. Yeah. But my point is, you guys showed the true abuse of power. Just impeachment after impeachment.
No. The Republicans started this with Bill Clinton. They followed it up with trying to make Obama the goal a one-term president. I'm surprised that when the Republicans took control of the Senate, they had everything under their control, and Donald Trump was the governor. Suddenly, nobody wants to talk about Benghazi anymore. No one talks about Hillary's emails anymore. We talk about politics of destruction. That's just the game. Hey, Donald Trump, it's the game. You don't think so? Go ask Cuomo in New York right now.
Yeah, hey. Oh, that's a nice one. We need to talk about him next week. Yeah, that gold standard.
If he's around next week, he might be gone by next week. But I'm just saying, though, that's the how this thing works. We got 1 minute left, Professor. I'll give it to you for closing comments.
Last week I was at I facilitated the Frederick Douglass brunch. And I'll tell you, it's one of the most enlightening things. I went back to my old campus, the first campus I worked on for St. P. College. But I met an amazing dude, young guy. I don't know if you know Congressman Byron Donalds. But I think that guy has promise. I know he's on the opposite side of the aisle from you, but I think you are diplomatic enough to probably hear him and give him his due.
Can we
like
get him
to
on the
see-
show, you think? You think we can invite him on?
I definitely think. I mean, yeah, and he has one of those
Let's do
faces. I
it.
think he likes being on
Okay.
TV. So we'll do that. But definitely, I was really impressed with that. There was a lot of support. I met Hector Camacho Jr. So, but yeah.
You didn't like put your fist up. You didn't say that,
No. As a matter of fact, here's the thing. I didn't even know who the guy was. I was wondering why this guy's acting like he's fighting. I thought there was something wrong with the guy. I thought like someone's kid that they had sitting in the back until they started auctioning. It was like they're auctioning his shorts. I'm
Because
like,
he's not that bigger guy, right?
He's not.
Yeah.
He's not. He's like 5'7", 5'8",
Yeah.
5'7" at the most probably. But anyway, great time. But that's all I got.
Hey man, well, first of all, congratulations on that. The reviews I heard about it was a great event. I thought they had picked the right person to go do that, and I'm glad that we can expand our connectivity to events of that nature. Going out and doing stuff like this is important, and as partisan as I can be and as liberal as I can be, I know that there's always another side to the toast that you need to take a look at before you bite. So thank you so much for going out doing that in our community. I want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in this morning. I hope you've gained something from the show. We appreciate you very much. DJ Anna, thank you so much in the studio for all that you do and keeping us on track and making sure we get these tough questions that you throw at us. You've been listening to In-Text News Radio, Reality Radio. We'll see you back here next week. Everybody have a great weekend.
All right.